Back to the drawing board. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Our idiom, our expression, our proverb today, I don't think it's a proverb, I think it's just a business expression, a business idiom, is back to the drawing board. Have you ever heard this? Have you ever used it? I've used this one a ton. Why? Because I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, my career, my businesses, and I've had to go back to the beginning, start over again. Go back to square one is another way of saying this expression. This expression actually first appeared and became famous in a cartoon, and it could be from before then, but what made it really famous was a cartoon by Peter Arno, the famous cartoonist in the New Yorker magazine. It appeared in 1941, and it showed an airplane crashing in the background and a man in a business suit walking away, and the headline said, well, back to the drawing board, meaning I got to find another way to get to where I'm going. How true is that of our businesses and sometimes even our lives today, right? We find ourselves in a situation that is, or we try something, we launch something, we launch a new product, we launch a new service, we start our own business, and we try to find out how to make it work. And some things we do work, of course, that otherwise we wouldn't be going into business or building our business. Other things we try it that they're not so successful. I've found that as I've gone from the brick and mortar corporate world of business to the online world of business, I've tried a whole lot of things that the gurus and the experts say you should do, and I found that I've crashed and burned and they haven't worked for me at all. I remember my first webinar, I think I had 3 people on it and nobody stayed till the end. So I'm talking to myself for an hour and 45 minutes and nobody's there. But it was great practice, and so I did it again and again and again and again and again. Went back to the drawing board, learned what worked, what didn't work, figured out what the messaging, tweaked and changed it. But I had to go all the way back to the beginning of that presentation, the beginning of that webinar, and work through the kinks, the things that weren't flowing, the things that weren't working out right. So often we're afraid to stop. We're going down the runway, right? The plane's gonna take off. We're running with a project that we're getting all these red flags. We're getting these signs that something is wrong and the plane or the project is going to crash and burn. But instead of anybody speaking up and saying, wait, hold the phone, we got to address and fix this, we'll go forward with things. And even though we know that they're probably going to crash and burn, they're going to fail because something isn't right. It's better to fix something as soon as you find out that it isn't quite right, or change something. If you're going down a road and there's road construction and you didn't expect road construction, you can turn around and take another route, or you can continue to try to find out that 10 miles down the road is dead stop closed and you can't take that route anyway. So now you've lost 20 miles because you've had to backtrack the 10 miles, and you've lost 20 miles because you've gone 10 miles out of your way. You have to go 10 miles back to where you can begin to get back on track again, back to the drawing board. I would love to know your stories about having to go back to the drawing board. Have you had to start projects over? I know when I was designing our house, I designed our family home, the home I sold about a year ago now with my ex-husband, and I designed it, and he was our general contractor then. And I had to go back to a lot of times to the drawing board because some of the things that I wanted in my house weren't actually physically possible to create the way I had imagined them. And so we had to find workarounds to make them work. I and many of us go back to the drawing board with respect to relationships. Some of us are divorced. Some of us are in different relationships than we were in a while ago. We've had to go back to the drawing board and start over in a new relationship. Oftentimes in our business, I remember in the Italian food business, I would get a bee in my bonnet that I wanted to go away from our core products, our core values. We made ravioli and red sauce and white sauce and Italian garlic bread, things like that. Meatballs, pizzas. Over the years, we tried different products and not services so much. Well, I guess we did some services too, but mostly products, because I would get bored and think, oh, there's got to be another flavor that people love or want to eat. So we tried to make gluten-free ravioli, and we tested that. We tried to make lots of different flavors of ravioli. My personal favorite was chocolate ravioli with caramel sauce. Was a chocolate dough with chocolate filling and then caramel sauce on top. It was absolutely delicious, but it was a hard sell. And I tested it, and turned out people didn't like it as much as I did, but I thought it was awesome. I also loved our lobster ravioli. It was handmade, homemade lobster ravioli, nothing better. And we sold a bunch of that. We sold a bunch of seafood ravioli, but it never took off like our 2 core flavors of ravioli did. We never sold anywhere near as much of any of the different things I took to the drawing board to try to to expand our product offerings. So I was always going back to the drawing board for that. And I was saying, oh, I'm going back to the drawing board with this because I tried all kinds of weird ravioli, deer ravioli, venison, goose ravioli, duck ravioli. I tried the gamut, all kinds of different mushrooms and squashes, and it was fun for me to play R&D and to do that in my business. But it taught me that a lot of times, the first time you try something, it's not going to work. The first seafood ravioli I made wasn't the one that we ended up taking to market because it wasn't right. It was a little off, and so we went back, played with the recipe some more, made it, did it again and again and again. We probably did 30 different iterations before I took it to a test market and tested that flavor out in the world, right? Because it had to be right before we even launched it. So oftentimes we have to go back to the drawing board. Starting over is not a failure. It just means the first thing that we tried didn't work. I don't know about you, but there are very few things that I've done the first time in my life and it worked out perfectly. So going back to the drawing board, starting over again, going back to square one. Back to square one comes from when football was actually broadcast on the radio. They had to have a way to describe the action on the field that people that were just listening could understand. So they created a grid system on the football field, which is kind of a grid system anyway, right, with the yard lines. But they called square one was the spot right by the end zone, right by the goalpost. So, goalpost, yeah, right, sport. I'm not much of a sports fan here. So I would love to hear your stories about going back to the drawing board and the lessons that you've learned from doing that. It's great when we share those things. Let's go out, have an absolutely amazing day. I will be with you tomorrow with another interesting idiom, business-related idioms for probably 50 days or so. I'm figuring out something as I'm traveling in the next few weeks. I'm traveling for the better part of May. So I wanted to have an idea of what I was going to talk about ahead of time. All right, that's it. Have an awesome day. If I can help you in any way, ask. Otherwise, go out and, if you have to, go back to the drawing board. Go back to square one and make sure you're doing the things that you want to do to make your life and your business the business of your dreams, the way you want to show up in the world. Have an awesome day. I'll be with you tomorrow.